The morning light came in pale through the kitchen window. I was pouring coffee when Sarah walked in, holding her phone like it weighed more than it should. She didn't say anything at first, just set it face down on the counter between us and looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not fear exactly. Something quieter, something resigned. "They posted it last night," she said. I didn't know what it was yet, but I knew from her voice that whatever came next would matter. Sarah had been chosen 6 months earlier to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Arts Education Foundation. 32 years of teaching, thousands of students. She'd built theater programs in underfunded schools, mentored kids who had no business believing in themselves, and somehow convinced school boards to keep funding the arts when budgets were collapsing. The award wasn't celebrity glamour. It was respect. It was recognition from people who understood the work. The ceremony was that evening. Black tie, a hotel ballroom downtown. I'd already picked up my suit from the cleaners. "Hosted what?" I asked. She turned the phone over and slid it toward me. The video was already queued up. The thumbnail showed her face mid-sentence, caught in an unflattering freeze. The title read, "Award-winning teacher gets real about her struggles. You won't believe what she said." I pressed play. It opened with upbeat music, a montage of Sarah in her classroom, smiling, animated, surrounded by students. Then a hard cut to her sitting in what looked like an interview setup. Soft lighting, a microphone clipped to her collar. The logo of a digital media outlet I vaguely recognized sat in the corner. "So you've been teaching for over 3 decades, a voice off camera said, friendly, casual. "Yes," Sarah answered. She looked comfortable, open. "What's the hardest part?" There was a pause. Sarah's face shifted, just slightly, into something more vulnerable. "Honestly," she said, "sometimes I wonder if I've made any real difference. You put so much into it, and then you see these kids go out into a world that doesn't value what you tried to teach them. You see the ones who fall through the cracks, the ones you couldn't reach, and you think, maybe I didn't do enough." The video cut immediately. No context, no follow-up. Just that moment of doubt, stripped bare and packaged for consumption. The next clip was worse. "Do you ever regret it? The career choice?" Another pause. Longer this time. "There are days," Sarah said quietly, "when I think about what else I could have done. What my life might have looked like if I'd chosen something different." Cut again. Then a third clip. This one barely 10 seconds. "I gave everything to this, and sometimes I'm not sure it was worth it." The video ended with a call to action. Like, share, and comment your thoughts below. Does this change how you see heroes in education? I set the phone down. Sarah was watching me. Her arms were crossed, not defensively, protectively. "They told me it was a profile piece," she said, "a short documentary ahead of the ceremony. Something to honor the work." I sat with them for 90 minutes. We talked about everything. My students, the programs, the wins, the funding battles. I told them stories about kids who'd gone on to do incredible things. "And they used none of that," I said. "They used 15 seconds. I could hear the clock on the wall, the hum of the refrigerator. The stillness in the house felt heavier than it should have. "How many views?" I asked. 200,000, as of an hour ago. The comments, she said, were what you'd expect. Half of them calling her ungrateful, the other half pitying her. A few saying she didn't deserve the award, several tagging the foundation directly. Sarah sat down across from me. She looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. "I shouldn't have said those things," she said. "I should have known better." "You didn't say anything wrong. I gave them what they wanted. You gave them honesty. They turned it into bait." She didn't argue. But I could see it in her face. She was already internalizing it. already rewriting the interview in her mind as her mistake, her failure to protect herself. "Do you want to cancel tonight?" I asked. She looked at me like the question didn't make sense. "No," she said. "I'm going." I nodded. So was I. Sarah didn't talk much the rest of the morning. She moved through the house like someone preparing for something inevitable. I watched her iron her dress. Twice. The second time because she said the first wasn't right, though I couldn't see the difference. I thought about the years that had brought us here. 32 years of teaching doesn't happen by accident. It's a choice you make every single day. Sarah had started in a district where the theater program was 3 cardboard boxes of moth-eaten costumes and a stage that doubled as storage for gym equipment. She wrote grant proposals at night, drove to estate sales on weekends looking for furniture she could repaint as set pieces. Spent her own money when the budgets ran out, which was often. She didn't do it for recognition. She did it because she believed the work mattered. Because she'd seen what happened when you gave a struggling kid a role in a play. How they stood differently afterward. How they looked people in the eye. No one writes articles about that part. The decade of small wins. The incremental trust building. The silent, uncelebrated labor of showing up. Our son Daniel had been one of those kids once. Not struggling academically, but shy. Uncertain. Sarah put him in a production when he was 12. He played a tree. Didn't even have lines, but he loved it. He found something there he didn't have words for. By college, he'd shifted. He studied media production, started talking about platforms and reach and audience capture. He got good at it, built a following, made money, met a woman named Maya, who was better at it than he was. Maya had energy, ambition. She talked about disruption and authenticity and the democratization of storytelling. She made everything sound urgent and important and new. Daniel absorbed it, believed in it, brought her home for holidays, and watched her the way people watch someone they think has answers. I liked Maya at first. She was smart, engaged, asked Sarah questions about her work that seemed genuine. Then last year, she'd pitched the profile piece. "People need to see this," she'd said over dinner. "The real side of teaching, not the Hollywood version, not the savior narrative, just the truth, the toll it takes, the cost." Sarah had hesitated. I'd seen it, a flicker of discomfort. But Maya had leaned in with that smile, warm, reassuring, and said, "I think you have a story that matters, and I want to help you tell it." Daniel had nodded along, encouraged her, said it was an honor, that Maya's outlet only featured people doing important work. Sarah had agreed because she trusted them, because Daniel vouched for her, because it felt, in that moment, like support. I'd said nothing. That was my mistake, not recognizing the language. Not seeing how phrases like getting real and raw honesty were just polite ways of saying, "We need you vulnerable." Not understanding that in their world, every moment of doubt was content. Every admission of struggle was an asset to be monetized. I should have asked harder questions. Should have pushed back when Sarah signed the release form. Should have been suspicious when Maya kept steering the conversation toward hardship instead of triumph. But I didn't, because I wanted to believe Daniel wouldn't let his mother be used. That family still meant something that couldn't be overridden by metrics and engagement. I was wrong. By the time we left for the venue, Sarah had gone quiet again. She sat in the passenger seat looking out the window, her award speech folded in her purse. I'd read it the night before. It was good, grateful. Focused on the students and the work and the people who'd helped along the way. It didn't mention doubt. It didn't mention regret. It didn't mention the days when the weight of it all felt unbearable. Because that wasn't the story. That was just a moment. A single thread pulled from a much larger tapestry and held up as if it were the whole truth. The hotel came into view, tall, lit up against the early evening sky. Cars were already lining up at the valet. People in formal wear stepping out, smiling, greeting each other with the easy warmth of a community that recognized its own. Sarah took a breath, smoothed her dress. "Ready?" I asked. She looked at me. And for just a second, I saw everything she was carrying. The humiliation. The anger she wouldn't let herself feel. The fear that people would believe the video more than they believed her. "Yes," she said. We got out of the car. The ballroom was elegant in the way institutional events try to be. Round tables with white linens, centerpieces that looked expensive but weren't. A stage at the front with a podium and a screen behind it, flanked by the foundation's logo in soft blue light. People milled near the bar. Colleagues Sarah had worked with over the years. Administrators, other teachers, a few former students who'd made the trip. The energy was warm, celebratory. No one looked at us strangely. No one whispered. Either they hadn't seen the video or they were kind enough not to mention it. Sarah moved through the room with practiced grace. She shook hands, accepted congratulations, smiled when people told her how much she deserved this. I stayed close, but not too close. Let her have the space, watched. That's when I saw Daniel. He was near the stage, talking to a woman in a headset who was adjusting a camera on a tripod. There were 3 cameras total, one aimed at the podium, one at the audience, one roaming. Professional setup. Not the Foundation's usual single-camera documentation. Maya stood beside him. She was dressed sharply, hair pulled back, confident. She wasn't holding a phone. She was holding a tablet, checking something on the screen with the focus of someone managing a production. Daniel saw me, waved, smiled like nothing was wrong. I didn't wave back. They made their way over. Maya got to us first. She hugged Sarah like they were old friends, held it a beat too long. "You look beautiful," Maya said. "How are you feeling?" "Good," Sarah said. Her voice was steady, polite, distant. "Big night," Maya continued. "I'm so glad we could be here for this." "You didn't mention you'd be filming," I said. Maya's smile didn't falter. "Oh, just documenting. The Foundation asked if we'd help with some live coverage. You know, social media. A few clips for their channels. Nothing invasive." "Live coverage," I repeated. "People love seeing these moments in real time," she said. "It makes them feel connected." Daniel stepped in, put a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Mom, you're going to do great. Everyone's excited. This is your night." Sarah looked at him. There was something in her expression I couldn't name. Not anger, not even hurt. Just awareness. Like she was seeing something clearly for the first time and choosing not to say it out loud. "Thank you," she said quietly. They moved on to greet someone else. I watched them go, watched the way Maya checked her tablet again, the way Daniel glanced back at the cameras like he was mentally blocking shots. "They're streaming this," Sarah said. She wasn't asking. "Looks like it." They didn't tell me. No. She was quiet for a moment. People passed by us, laughter from a nearby table, someone clinking a glass. "I should have known," she said. "You're not canceling." "No," she said it firmly. "I'm not giving them that." A voice came over the microphone. A woman from the Foundation welcoming everyone, asking people to take their seats. The room shifted. Conversations trailed off. Chairs scraped. The ambient noise compressed into something more focused. We found our table near the front. Daniel and Maya sat 3 tables over, close enough to be visible, far enough to seem like they were just attending. Maya set her tablet on the table, angled so she could see it without being obvious. The program started. A video montage of Sarah's career, photos of her with students, clips of performances, testimonials from former kids who'd gone on to teach, or act, or just carry what she'd given them into other lives. It was moving, honest, the kind of tribute that reminded you why the work mattered. The room applauded. Sarah kept her face composed, but I saw her hands in her lap, fingers laced, knuckles white. The foundation director took the stage, spoke about excellence and dedication, about educators who don't just teach subjects, but shape lives. When she said Sarah's name, the applause was louder. Genuine. Sarah stood, walked to the stage, took her place behind the podium. That's when I saw Maya stand up, not to applaud, to move. She walked toward the side of the stage, calm, purposeful. One of the camera operators adjusted his angle. The woman with the headset nodded at her. Maya climbed the stairs. The director smiled, stepped aside, handed Maya the microphone. Sarah turned, saw her, and in that moment, before a single word was spoken, I watched my wife understand exactly what was about to happen. Maya's voice was warm, practiced, the kind of tone that sounds like empathy but is really performance. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began. "I know we're here to celebrate Sarah, and we absolutely should, but I think true celebration means honoring the whole person, not just the highlight reel, not just the achievements, but the struggle, the cost, the human being behind the work." Sarah stood 5 feet away, still at the podium. The director had moved to the side, uncertain. This wasn't on the program, but Maya had the microphone now, and she had the stage. "I had the privilege of sitting down with Sarah a few months ago," Maya continued, "and what she shared with me was so powerful, so real. I think it's important, especially tonight, that we hear her truth. Not the polished version, the actual version." She gestured toward the screen. It lit up. The video started. The same clips from that morning. Sarah saying she wondered if she'd made a difference. Sarah admitting there were days she regretted her choices. Sarah saying she wasn't sure it was worth it. But this time it was bigger, projected across a 12-foot screen, with a room full of people watching. The audio was sharp. Clear. Sarah's voice filled the ballroom. Her face, caught in those moments of vulnerability, was unavoidable. I looked around. The room had gone still. Not the attentive stillness of an engaged audience, the uncomfortable stillness of people who don't know where to look. Some stared at the screen. Others glanced at Sarah. A few looked down at their plates. No one spoke. When the video ended, Maya turned back to the room. She didn't look smug. She looked earnest. That was worse. "I wanted to share this," she said, "because I think we do a disservice when we pretend that dedication doesn't come with doubt. That service doesn't come with sacrifice. Sarah has given her life to this work, and part of honoring that is acknowledging the weight she's carried. Not hiding it, not pretending it doesn't exist." She looked at Sarah. "Thank you for trusting me with your story." The applause that followed was scattered, confused. A few people clapped because they didn't know what else to do. Others didn't move. The foundation director stepped forward trying to recover, but the moment had already been defined. Sarah stood there. She didn't cry, didn't walk off stage, didn't say anything. She just looked at Maya, then at the audience, then at Daniel. Our son sat at his table, hands folded, watching. He didn't applaud, but he didn't stand, didn't object, didn't do anything. He'd known. Of course he'd known. The director finally took the microphone back, said something about the complexity of the work, transitioned awkwardly to presenting the actual award. Someone brought out the plaque. Sarah accepted it, shook hands, smiled in a way that didn't reach her eyes. She was supposed to give a speech. She didn't. She just said, "Thank you," into the microphone. Her voice was quiet, steady, and then she walked off stage. The applause was louder this time, sympathetic. People were trying to support her, trying to correct for what had just happened. But it was too late. The moment had been reframed. The night had been redefined. Sarah returned to our table, set the plaque down carefully, sat, looked straight ahead. "I'm fine," she said before I could ask. I believed her, and I didn't. Maya was still near the stage, talking to someone, smiling. Daniel had his phone out, probably checking comments, watching the metrics climb. The program continued. Another speaker took the stage, something about future initiatives. No one was really listening. I watched the cameras, still recording, still streaming, capturing Sarah's reaction, the room's discomfort, packaging it all in real time for people who weren't even here. Sarah reached for her water glass. Her hand was steady. I stood up. I didn't walk to the stage. I walked to the camera operator near the back. "Is this still streaming?" I asked. He looked up, nodded. "Yeah, live on 3 platforms." "Good," I said. "Keep it running." I made my way to the front. Not rushed, not dramatic, just deliberate. The current speaker noticed me approaching and paused mid-sentence. The director looked confused. Maya's smile faltered. I took the microphone. "I apologize for the interruption," I said, "but there's something that needs to be addressed while we're all here." The room went quiet again. Different this time, anticipatory. I didn't look at Maya yet. I looked at the audience. "The video you just saw was taken from a 90-minute interview my wife gave in good faith. She was told it would be a profile piece, a celebration of her work. She signed a release form for that specific purpose, editorial content honoring her career ahead of tonight's ceremony." I let that sit for a moment. What you just watched was not that. It was manipulated footage, stripped of context, and published without her approval as engagement content. That video currently has over 400,000 views. It was monetized, and it was never submitted to her for review before publication, despite the agreement stating it would be. Maya's face shifted. The warmth drained. Daniel had gone very still. 10 days ago, I continued, I contacted the foundation. I also contacted the media outlet that published the video. I requested the full interview transcript and the signed release form. Both were provided. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the file I'd prepared that afternoon after I'd spent 6 hours making phone calls. The release form specifies respectful editorial use in professional context. The outlet's own ethics guidelines, publicly available on their website, state that interview subjects must be given the opportunity to review content if it includes potentially sensitive admissions. I looked at Maya now. "You violated both, and you did it knowingly." Her jaw tightened. She didn't speak. "I also reached out to the 3 sponsors currently funding your outlet," I said. "I provided them with the release form, the published video, and the full transcript showing what my wife actually said that you chose not to include." I could see Daniel's face from where I stood. He'd gone pale. 2 of those sponsors pulled funding this afternoon. The third put their contract under review, pending an ethics investigation. The room was silent. No one moved. No one looked away. "I'm not telling you this to humiliate anyone," I said. "I'm telling you because what happened here tonight was framed as honoring vulnerability. But it wasn't. It was exploitation. And it was done by people my wife trusted, people she welcomed into her life." I looked at Daniel, held his eyes. People she raised. He didn't look away, but he didn't say anything either. I set the microphone back on the podium, turned to the foundation director. "I'm sorry this happened at your event," I said quietly. "Sarah's honored to receive this award, but I think we're done here." The director nodded. She looked shaken. "Of course, I'm so sorry." I walked back to Sarah. She was already standing, holding her plaque. Her face was unreadable, composed in a way that only came from years of holding herself together in front of people who needed her to be steady. "Ready?" I asked. "Yes," she said. We walked toward the exit. No one stopped us. A few people stood as we passed. One older woman, someone Sarah had mentored years ago, reached out and squeezed her hand, said nothing, just held on for a second. The cameras were still running. I knew they were. capturing our exit, streaming it to whoever was watching. Good. Let them see her walk out with her head up. Let them see that she didn't need their defense or their pity or their version of her story. We pushed through the doors into the cool night air. Sarah stopped on the steps, took a breath, looked back at the building once. Then she turned to me. "Thank you," she said. I took her hand. We went home. The house was quiet the next morning, the kind of quiet that feels earned. Sarah made coffee. I made eggs. We ate at the kitchen table without the television on, without checking phones, without filling the silence with anything it didn't need. The plaque sat on the counter. She hadn't decided where to put it yet. Maybe she never would. That was fine. "How are you?" I asked. She thought about it. Actually thought about it. "Tired," she said. "But okay." Okay, felt honest. Not repaired, not resolved. Just real. The video came down 3 days later. Quietly. No announcement. No apology. Just removed. The outlet issued a brief statement about reviewing editorial practices. It was careful, vague, exactly the kind of language organizations use when they're protecting themselves without admitting fault. I didn't care. The point wasn't to make them apologize. The point was to stop the bleeding. Daniel called on the 4th day. Sarah let it go to voicemail, then listened to it alone in the other room. When she came back, she didn't tell me what he'd said. I didn't ask. 2 weeks later, she called him back. They spoke for 20 minutes. When she hung up, she looked exhausted. "How did it go?" I asked. "He apologized," she said. "Sort of." "Sort of." He said he didn't think it would go that way, that Maya had pushed the angle and he didn't know how to stop it. He said he was sorry I was hurt. I waited. "He didn't say he was wrong," she added quietly, "just that he was sorry I felt hurt." That distinction mattered. We both knew it. "What did you say?" "I told him I needed space, that I loved him, but that I couldn't pretend this didn't change things." She said it calmly, not as punishment, just as fact. "Did he understand?" "I don't know," she said. "Maybe not yet." She didn't block his number, didn't cut him off. But she also didn't make it easy, didn't rush to smooth it over, or pretend the wound was smaller than it was. She let the distance exist, let him sit with it. That took more strength than anger would have. Sarah went back to work the following Monday. Her colleagues were kind, careful. A few asked if she was okay. She said yes and moved on. No one brought up the video. Either they hadn't seen it, or they respected her enough not to mention it. One of her former students, a girl who'd graduated 5 years earlier and now taught at a middle school across town, sent her a letter. Not an email, an actual letter. It was 3 pages long, handwritten. It talked about a moment in Sarah's class when this girl had felt invisible, and Sarah had seen her anyway, had given her a role, had told her she mattered. "You changed my life," the letter said. "Not because you were perfect, because you cared when no one else did." Sarah put it in a drawer, but I saw her take it out and read it again a few days later. The foundation reached out privately, apologized for what had happened, offered to host another event. Sarah declined, politely, firmly. "I don't need another ceremony," she told me. "I just needed them to know what happened." And they do. She kept teaching, kept showing up, kept doing the work that never made headlines and never would. The video faded. Other stories replaced it. The algorithm moved on. The people who'd commented forgot. That's how these things work. The outrage is loud and fast, and then it's gone. But Sarah didn't forget. Neither did I. Not the betrayal, not the cameras, not the moment she stood on that stage and chose not to collapse. We didn't talk about it much after that. There wasn't a need. The story had already been told. Not by them. By us, in the way we'd chosen to end it. Silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the last word. So, that's the story. And I know some of you might be thinking, this is just one situation, one family, one bad decision. But here's the thing, it's not just one. This is happening everywhere. Every single day. People are turning their parents into content, their partners into punchlines, their kids into engagement bait. And they're doing it because somewhere along the way, we all started believing that views and comments and likes were worth more than the people sitting across the table from us. We've built a world where vulnerability isn't something you share with someone you trust. It's something you perform for strangers. Where every private moment is potential content. Where betrayal gets rebranded as authenticity. And the worst part? The algorithm rewards it. The more raw, the more painful, the more exposed someone is, the better it performs. So people keep doing it, keep filming, keep posting, keep sacrificing the people they love on the altar of validation from people they'll never meet. Sarah didn't deserve what happened to her. But she's not alone. There are thousands of people out there right now sitting with the same quiet humiliation, watching their lives get repackaged, misrepresented and monetized by people who claim to care about them. And most of them won't fight back. Because fighting back means more attention, more content, more fuel for the fire. So if this story made you feel something, if it made you stop and think about what we've normalized, then do me a favor. Share it, not for the algorithm, but because maybe someone needs to hear it. Maybe someone in your life is about to make the same mistake Daniel did, or maybe someone's been hurt the way Sarah was, and they need to know they're not wrong for feeling betrayed. Like this video if it resonated. Subscribe if you want more stories that actually mean something instead of just chasing trends. But most importantly, look around. Look at the people in your life. The ones who've been there. The ones who've loved you before you had a platform and will still be there when it's gone. Don't turn them into content. They deserve better than that. And so do you. I'll see you in the next one.